Okay, hello everybody, this is Sword here, and it has been a hot minute since I've uploaded anything to YouTube and or streamed on Twitch. Extremely sorry, I've been just playing a bunch of other games, and I'm really not too sure how committed I want to be with all the StarCraft content. Obviously not very committed at the moment, but I was thinking about trying to change that, although I'm not entirely sure what the new schedule for Twitch and YouTube will be. Um, but I do want to try and at least upload to YouTube more regularly. I'm not entirely sure how the Twitch streaming will be going. Um, but anyway, as you guys can probably already tell by the build order, we are going to have a little cannon rush by our GM opponent, ProbeScout, over here in the top right corner, playing as the Protoss pieces. He already has a probe in my base, and we can see that he's already walled me off. I don't believe there's any gap for an SCV to fit through here, unfortunately, but I did see that he came in pretty early, and I did see the full wall in. And at this point in the game, you can see that I have no reaction. It's not because I'm AFK, it's just because at this point, my game plan was to just completely lift off once the orbital command finishes and go down to the natural expansion and start going over there. So what I should have been doing probably is just immediately trying to clear out the bottom area. I'm not entirely sure why I didn't. I might have been scared, and I'm not entirely sure what the bunker is for over here. Most of the time when a player goes for a cannon rush, they will start cannoning the low ground and go up, but in this situation he already committed to behind my mineral line. So going down here a little bit late, and because of it I have to clear up a lot more than I would normally. I'm pulling all my SCVs down here and just clearing up all these random buildings that he has decided to make. If we look at the units lost, we're doing pretty well in terms of efficiency. This was a mistake. I should have just kept the orbital next to the gateway, or pulled all of the SCVs to kill this a lot earlier. But mistakes do happen, and we are pretty happy with this. One thing that I'm immediately concerned about is him trying to cannon rush from the high ground over here. And actually that might have been what the bunker was for. But I guess I canceled it anyway. I don't really remember this game was played a while back. Doing a little bit of micro here against the Zealot. The Zealot does get one shot off. Cannon finishes in my main base. And again, I just want to try and keep high ground vision so we can prevent any cannons from getting up into killing off my refineries and starting to get a good position from him. I teched into factory, but unfortunately I don't have any gas because I didn't have the refineries down here to really start making any tanks or anything like that. Started attacking the gateway, but a stalker is already out, and stalkers can pretty much out micro marines for ages, forever. And because of it, I'm just going to be retreating here. I realize the stalker is out and I'm in a pretty bad position, so I start making a bunker on the low ground here. Um, really wish I kept the bunker up on the high ground, but it is what it is. He does have a shield battery here as well, so it's just more of a reason to not try and engage these stalkers with these marines. But I think at the same time I'm just trying to build or buy enough time for a tank here. Opened up with a cyclone here, but that was a bit of a mistake by me. He is going to be targeting the tech lab here, and I should be repairing it. The pull for the repair is extremely late by me, but we do eventually get that started up here. We can see that I'm quite a bit behind on SCVs. I only have the 22 to the 30 of my opponent, and the tank is about to pop. And with it, we should be able to end the RAS here, going to be sieging up. And unfortunately, this siege tank is just, or it's a bit out of range to defend these supply depots. So I do start a bunch of supply depots behind my mineral line, and those are going to be more secure. The only main thing that's annoying now is, again, like I was talking about earlier, he does have this high ground vision, or high ground position, so he can start poking pretty much everything, and I can't really stop him from doing so. I do also have a bunch of money, so I'm going to be expanding over here to this third. Don't want to expand over here because, again, he has the high ground area. Going to be using my barracks just for the vision. Normally I would want to be using my barracks for pretty much anything else, like building a tech lab, starting more marines, but getting the vision at this point in the game is just so much more important. In the meantime, we can see that my opponent is expanding, and I do believe that I know about it because I had an SCV on his side of the map earlier. So at this point, not the greatest position. I actually thought he was going to be going into Void Rays or something like that. So I started up a starport pretty early into the game, and I wanted to get the reactor on it, but in hindsight I probably should have just been starting up more barracks a lot earlier than this. Going to be eventually getting my natural, or quote unquote natural expansion up and running. And at this point, this is a kind of awkward position. We do have this choke point, which is a little bit hard to engage from, or engage into from his point of view. But also at the same time, I've just been floating a bunch of minerals because I really wasn't sure what I was going to be doing here. I do build a couple of Vikings because, again, I thought he was going to start teching into Void Rays, and he does have Stargate back here. And he is going into Phoenixes? Did I scout that? Is that why I'm making it? I guess not. I guess I just assumed that it was going to be this. Do have a Cyclone over here, going to be trying to kill off the Stalker, but unable to because of that shield battery from earlier. Continuing to throw on more barracks because, again, my macro and my decision making were not very sound in this game. But kind of have to deal with what we have at the moment. I do throw down a bunker because, again, I was worried about an attack from this angle, but there's literally nothing in the bunker, so this is just a waste of 100 minerals. Didn't even get the salvage on time. None of my units are in position because I wanted to fortify this position, and because of it, I'm just going to have to run away with my my command center. I landed my Vikings in order to try and defend this, but really no luck as of yet. Luckily, because of the way that he blinked right there, I'm going to be able to save this orbital command. If he waited on the blink a little bit, then I might have lost the CC. But now with the tank coming in, he's going to blink on top of it, but we do have a handful of Marines, a bit of target firing on my end, and it looks like we are going to be able to clear this up. He's reinforcing with a few more stalkers, but again, with this amount of units, we might actually be in trouble, but with the reinforcing tank, I think we should be okay for now. I'm going to eventually be re-establishing my second base here, and pulling back these units. So the reason why I had my siege tanks back here is because I was worried about him just warping in a bunch of units from the high ground and then attacking at my my first base, and that's why I really didn't have anything committed to this area over here. In the meantime, my opponent is expanding to our third base, so they're not looking great for me, if I'm being honest. We do have a lot of production, but we're supply blocked at this point in the game as well. Going to be throwing down a couple more supply depots, but we do not have the energy to throw down a call supply either. One nice thing about Terran is that they're pretty good defensively, and my opponent comes in from this same position over here, and we are going to be able to pick off the couple of sentries that he warped in, and the stalkers that he also warped in, and this was an extremely great trade for us in terms of the units lost. He's a little bit behind in that metric, and we are going to be pushing in. I thought he might have a third here, and my thought process was correct. Going to be pushing into this this cannon. Luckily he doesn't shield overcharge it, as I was attacking it for a little bit longer than I probably should have been. Going to be pushing in and killing as many probes as I can with a bit of stutter step. In the meantime, during that stutter step micro, my macro is absolute non-existent. The Nexus is going to be rebuilt in the other location, and at this point, I only have one medevac, so all of these units are extremely red. I stim again, and that might have actually been a mistake. I could have possibly, with the amount of units that he had, just regular attack moved, and that might have been the better play. Going to be slow moving these tanks up to his natural expansion. Probably should have attacked into the other third, but I wasn't completely sure that he was grabbing it at that point. Um, am going to eventually start my own third base. I pulled more units in. He has a bunch of charge locks into my attack, kills off both of the tanks here. And with the surround from my marines, it looks like we'll be able to kill off one Colossus. He picks off the other Colossus with the War Prism, and we are going to eventually be able to get out of there. Still doing okay in terms of units lost. Units and resources lost, I should say. But we don't have that large of an army as of yet. He's starting to create a pretty scary. Actually, it's not that scary at the moment. It's only one Colossus, and with just a handful of Marines and Marauders, we should be able to threaten this position, especially since there's no Zealots here and no battery as well. If there was a battery with an overcharge, this might have been a lot more tricky to engage into. And especially if he had a lot more Zealots, but it looks like it was just mineral starved because of the decision to build a Nexus here. And this Nexus is going to go down. We are going to be pushing back into the natural expansion. And this time, since we do have a few more medevacs, it looks like all of our units are going to be okay and not completely red. Going to be charging in and killing the overcharged battery. Focusing down this pylon. I actually thought this was going to be the last pylon, but he does use his War Prism in order to charge the robotics facility, which was a great play. Got out a disruptor, but we were able to successfully dodge from the disruptor shot, only getting one kill for him. And War Prism officially goes down. He calls GG, and we beat the Grandmaster Cannon Rusher, which felt great. Looks like he was actually tucking into Templar Archives as well and spreading himself a bit thin, which might have been another reason why we were able to come back in this game. If I had to do this over with more knowledge, I think the main thing would just be to be a bit more decisive with how I was going to play this and know like a bit more of the math in my head. Um, like for instance, trying to reestablish or kill off all the buildings in the natural, or just checking with a single unit to see if there was stuff down here to know if I should be poking down here. Keeping the bunker at the high ground probably would have been great as well. And I'm not entirely sure, but I kind of wanted to start poking in back up into the main base because I always had to be committed to units back here just because I never knew when he was going to randomly warp in stuff. Um, and I spread myself a little bit too thin. The distance from my natural to this base over here is pretty long, and because of it, I really was having a hard time defending this base over here. Although it was a really fun game to play, I definitely felt a good bit of adrenaline after beating the Grandmaster. I don't do that too often nowadays, but it was a fun game. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. I'm going to try and be uploading more regularly, but again, not entirely sure as of yet. Thank you all for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later.